Hi team, and welcome back to Doctor's Notes. In this video, we will discuss important concepts in developmental biology in preparation for exam number 3. Now, with developmental biology, it is important to understand that this is a dynamic process. So there are many pathways, many reactions, many events that are occurring in real time in order to develop a fetus that's ready to survive in the outside world at about 40 weeks, which is what full term of pregnancy is considered. So my recommendation as we talk about developmentology is to remember key dates, key structures that present, when they first present, and also, if applicable, other important dates at which they become a different structure. So let's start with what happens after fertilization. So when sperm meets egg, or really when sperm penetrates egg, two gametes will together form a zygote. A zygote is going to have 46 chromosomes, so diploid in number, and then a lot of cell division is happening in just the first few days. By the time the zygote reaches day 4, it has a characteristic appearance. It's marked by the presence of a blastocele, which is this cavity here. And I apologize if I said day 4 before. Day 4, it's considered the morula. And then by day 5, it's considered the blastocyst. So here's that cavity known as the blastocele. Here is the inner cell mass comprised of cells referred to also as the embryoblast. And then this surrounding cells are known as the trophoblasts. Now, the trophoblast is what takes reign or starts appearing after the zona pellucida, which was previously surrounding the ovum, degrades by about day 5. This embryoblast is what's going to give rise to the developing fetus. And then by day 10, the structure changes quite a bit. So this embryoblast now takes the structure of 3 different cell layers, considered the 3 different germ layers. And from superior to inferior, that's the ectoderm, then mesoderm, and then the endoderm. Generally speaking, the ectoderm is going to give rise to structures in the body that are considered connective tissue, whereas the mesoderm is going to give rise to a lot of the muscle tissue, and the endoderm is going to give rise to a lot of the tissue that's considered epithelium in the human body. I say this loosely because there are a lot of exceptions to this rule. And this is a very important concept, and it's important to focus on what the ectoderm, endoderm, and endoderm give rise to. And here is a summary table of some of the key systems, key organs, if you will, that these 3 germ layers eventually become. Now, from conception, so week 0 to week 8, the developing baby is considered an embryo. And then by week 9, it's considered a fetus. And the reason why is because up until week 8, on ultrasound, if we were to detect this developing structure, basically it just looks like a ball of cells. There's nothing really in it that will give us an idea of what sort of life form this will take. This changes by week 9 because certain structures, protrusions, buds, if you will, start developing, start being present. And this is the first time we start to see this developing offspring having some sort of life form shape. And so from week 9 to full term, which is considered 40 weeks, it's considered a fetus. Now, what I like about this image is it takes the fetus at week 9 and it shows you where the ectoderm eventually ends up, where the endoderm and the uh, mesoderm ends up, and also where the endoderm ends up. And then the protrusion of certain structures that are worth knowing, including the optic placode on both sides. This is what eventually gives rise to the eyes. In between the optic placode and the heart bulge located on the left side is going to be a series of protrusions. The first two are the maxillary process and the mandibular process, not seen here. Those give rise to the maxillary bone and the mandibular bone, or the mandible. And then what's remaining are a series of arches, so these protrusions, in between them the grooves, known as the pharyngeal or branchial arches, or pharyngeal and branchial grooves. Branchial is in reference to the Latin word for gills, because that's what they look like at this current state. The pharyngeal and branchial grooves and arches will give rise to different structures that you find in the neck region. And then what you also see are buds, limb buds, upper and lower. They appear here and here. The upper limb buds on both sides will eventually give rise to the left and right arm. And then the lower limb buds would appear somewhere here. This would eventually give rise to the lower and right, the right and left lower leg. In the ectoderm region is where you'll find the early presence of what will eventually become the vertebra, or the spinal column, not the cord. That's different. And then the liver bud is going to be located on the right side below the heart bulge, but again on the right side, because that's eventually where the liver will start to form. So there you have it, some key factors you're going to want to know. Remember dates. Remember when a zygote becomes an embryo, becomes a fetus. And also pay a lot of attention to the ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm germ layers. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you find it helpful. Again, I want to give credit to my colleagues at GCU from whom I've adopted these slides. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.